Dear class 8 students, today we are going to study a new chapter, When People Rebel. Okay, I'm going to read first in English, then I will explain in Mizo again. Please listen carefully, and I'm not going to read out all the text from your textbook, and I'm going to highlight the important points and I'm going to explain it after that. Okay, let's start. Policies and the people. Mipui tele Ram Obdan. In the previous chapter, you look at the policies of the East India Company and the effect they had on different people. Kings, queens, peasants, landlords, tribals, and soldiers were all affected in different ways. You have also seen how people resist policies and actions that harm their interests or go against their sentiments. Chapter masa khan East India Company te policy chu kan zirin eng tin nge mi pui ma ngong ane ti te kan hreto a lal an lal pa te lal nu te lo nei tu te tin nam hnuai hnung te le sipai te thlengin a ngong ania tin mi pui ten eng tin nge an policy chu an do dala eng tin nge action an lak ti te kan hreto bok ani Nawabs lost their powers. Nawabs kan ti chu governor a hunlai governor kan ti khani mayam te governor te thu nei na an hlo na. In point number one, since the mid 18th century, Nawabs and Rajas had seen their power erode. They lost their authority and honor. Kumzabi sompari na lay hol vela trangkhan Nawab le Raja governor te mengo governor te le lal te thu nei na chu ti chetania an zom na ten lal na te pon hlo to ni. Number two, in 1801, the subsidiary alliance was imposed on Awadh and it was annexed in 1856 on the basis of administration. Kumsang Hazare Pakata East India Company le India chu tiluinain athupunga inremna Awadh muna nei ni in Kumsang Hazare somnga paruka tiluina vekina in real bol na zul zuin chunzom le ani. Point number three, along with this, direct conquest and doctrine of lapse were imposed and symbols of authority were destroyed. He ne narwal hian doctrine of lapse man lui ni in India te thu nei na su ti chiat vekania. And number four, the company began to plan to bring an end to the Mughal dynasty and Bahadur Shah Jafar was declared as the last king of Mughals. Company chon Mughal al ram chu ti topin Bahadur Shah Jafar chu Mughal lal nung beraan puang ani. Uh, the peasants and the sepoys lo nei tu le sipai te. Point number one, in the countryside, peasants and zamindars resented the high taxes and the rigid methods of revenue collection. Thingtlang lama chuan lo nei tu te le ram nei tu te hian chia sang tak le rip tak an du loin an hol lea. And number two, the Indian sepoys in the employment of the company were unhappy about their pay, allowances, and conditions of service. Company hnuai India sipai thok te chu an hlolen ham thana don sang te chunga an lung chung changa an lungoi lo boka. Point number three, moreover, some new rules violated their religious sensibilities and beliefs, but British made it compulsory for everyone in service to follow all the trams. Chumi pialama chuan an dan thar siam chuan India mi te sa kho biak le rin dan chu akala. Ma se British chuan an hnuai thok te chuan dan zom vek turin anti box ni. And point number four, sepoys had the agriculture breakdown, so they were directly affected with revenue policies of British. India sipai te hi lo nei pa I zong tam tak an ni ve tho wang hian heng British ho dan thar hian a ngong ve hle ani. Response to reforms in din thar le na ti bang om. And number one, the British believed that Indian society had to be reformed. British te chuan Indian society chu din thar le ngai tin ria. And number two, laws were passed to stop sati practice and to encourage remarriage of widows. Sati kan ti chu Hindu ho ti dan phung ania an pasal te thi ruang an hal ruala an hal lum ve thin an upui te kha sati an ti chu ni chumi chu ti top dan an siam tharba ka mei thai ten pasal an nei le thei dan tu nen lam an ngai tu a. And point number three, the literature and the culture of India was also made to feel the Britishers as obsolete and unworthy. One of the British writers said that the entire literature of India and Arab is equal to one shelf of books of English literature. India literature le culture po British te chuan thil hlui man tlak lawa an ngai tira British ziang mi pakhat phei chuan India le Arab literature chu English le khabu da na chhuar pakhat ami ang lekin angai ni. And number 4, Indian took these reforms as offense to their culture and heritage and considered them as subordination of religious practices and opposed them. Chuan malak na chu Indian ho chuan nam dan hlu le ti dan mu sip na le in tham lo na lian taka an ngai ani. Next topic, through the eyes of the people, mi pui mit atanga thirin. People conceived that the English were determined to wipe out the religions of Hindu and the Muslim and wanted the whole population to be converted in Christianity. English ho in India mi pui ta chuan an sa khuwa Hindu le Muslim chu hnol bawa Christian in li tir fek an tum chuan hrethiam ta a. A mutiny becomes a popular rebellion. Sipai hel na chuan hel na lian zok siam. Point number 1, in May 1857, a massive rebellion started against the company's very presence in India. Kumsa khazare somga pasari May thai in India mi te chong company laka helna lian takan chok chuka. Number 2, the instant reason of mutiny was the use of cartridges greased with cow and pig fat. Sepoys took it as blood on their religious sentiments and news spread in all the regiments. Sipai te helna cho chu chan ber pakhat chu silai cartridge ti mom na bong thau le vok thau man chu ni. Sipai te an sa kho ti bor bana nga in an zinga po do dal na an regiment apo adar chakleni. Point number 3, sepoys mutinied in several places beginning from Meerut, and a large number of people from different sections of society rose up in rebellion. Sipai te helna chu Meerut akang kai tranin khosang sanga le mun sang sanga mi pui te chuan an thlop zela. And number 4, anger against high taxes, disruption of crafts and trade, disfection of nobles, and rumors in sepoys finally led to the mutiny of 1857. Chia chunga lungoi lo na te sumdo na ke chia na te mihosa te lungoi lo na le sipai te in thurwal na chun kumsa khazare somga pasare hel na chu thui takina kai roi tani. From Meerut to Delhi, Meerut atanga Delhi. On 29 March 1857, Mangal Pandey, a young soldier, was hanged to death for attacking his officers in Barakpur, and soldiers also rebelled against the use of grease cartridges. Mars nikwa sa khazare somga pasari khan India sipai no pang tak pakhat chuan Barakpura an sipai officer a be awang le bong thau cartridge man ado dala wangin an khai hluma. In response to this revolt, soldiers were captured and were put in jail. He helna lo zual zela wang hian sipai ta chu zela khung an nia. The response of other Indians and Meerut was quite extraordinary. They marched to the jail to Meerut and released the imprisoned sepoys. Hemi chan le nana India sipai te kong zo chu dang dai hle. Meerut a jail thing kong an zo an sipai tang te pon an vachu hialani. Number 4, the sepoys rode all night of 10 May to reach Delhi. May ni som zana zan coin sipai chu Delhi pan yang kal. Next, the regiment station in Delhi also rose up in rebellion, and many British officers were killed. Arms and ammunition seized, buildings set on fire. Delhi sipai mun pawimawh boina hian anang zela British officer tam tak tha an nia silai le amu po tam tak lak sak ni in an building po hal sak an ni. And the soldiers forcibly met Bahadur Shah Jafar and proclaimed him as the leader. Sipai te chuan lo thelo na wangin Bahadur Shah Jafar chu muin an ho tuatan an da ani. Bahadur Shah accepted the rebellion's plea and called regional rulers to fight against the British. Bahadur Shah chuan hel na chun na sele zola kalpui rota munrang sanga sipai te po British dole turin thu pebok. Next topic, the rebellion spread hel na da zauzel. After the British were routed from Delhi, there was no uprising for almost a week. Then a spurt of mutinies began. Delhi British te antlom nu chuan kar chuan re da ufang honga chumilai chuan helna na satakin aron chik chawaron phu chuak chho zerani. Regiments after regiment mutinied and took off to join other troops at nodal points like Delhi, Kanpur and Lucknow. Sipai te sipai sang sipai rual te zom khom zela Delhi te Kanpur te Lucknow te. And number 3, one by one, the rebels spread to entire northern India, led to different leaders such as Nana Sahib of Kanpur, Burjis Kart of Lucknow, and his mother Begum Hasrat Mahal. Rani Lakshmi Bai took as active part in organizing the uprising against the British. Helna claim in the Darzela. Northern India lama Nana Saheb chu Kanpur shoi tu ania Burgess Carter anu Begum Hasrat Mahal chu Lucknow Rani Lakshmi Bai chu British Dodal tu la su tu zinga tel ve tabok. The whole scene frightened the British and they started changing notes of fear. Chuting malan na sa takawang chuan British ho chuan an hlau ta ema. The regional rulers rulers allied with Mughals rulers as they thought that this way they can restore their authority to rule, which was not possible under British administration. Mughal shoi tu hnuai regional shoi tu the tanrul na wangi British thunei na chu lang le te thei aim base. And next topic, the company fight back. Company lamin bailet vet hung. Unnerved by the scale of upheavals, they decided to repress the revolt with all its might. New laws were made, best generals were called, and better ammunitions were used. Chati British an zam nu chuan an man ro thal ber te mangin an theina zong len shoi tu tharten ron bailet and rail tani. Delhi was recaptured from the rebels forces in September 1857. Chumi wang chun Delhi chu September tha sakha zakwa sakha zare somga pasaria sipai te helna atang chuan an let le ta am. The last Mughal emperor Bahadur Shah Jafar was tried in court and sentenced to life imprisonment. He, along with his wife, was sent to prison in Rangoon, and his two sons were killed in front of his eyes. Mughal lal Bahadur Shah Jafar chu kota shoi in damchung zela tang turati ania. Hemirul hian an pui po Rangoon zela da ni in amit mu lai ngei na fopa te pati an ti hlumani. People continued to resist and battle the British. The British had to fight for 2 years to suppress the massive forces of popular rebellion, and it was 1859 that they were successful in getting the all rebels suppressed. Mi pui lam an lungoi theilo na sat takem beile zela kumni chung te mek mai be nuwa chuan kumsang hazare somnga pakwa British pok chu chakzoka an trang le tani. British fought back hard and they on their hand tried to win the people's faith again by giving the right to landlords who supported them and to those who did not kill any white. India mi puitan an rin le theina British ten thapui thole in ram nei tu kan ti landlord te an ma ni thlopa English mi te thatve lo ten hena an dik na chanvo pe kial an tiamani. Aftermath anu ma so khok. Some important changes were introduced by the British after they regained control by the end of 1859. The British Parliament passed a new Act 1858 and transferred the power of the East India Company to the British Crown in order to ensure a more responsible management of Indian affairs. Kumsang hazare somnga pakwa tom nuwa British ten chakna nei le nu khan thil tam takan thak dang lama British Parliament chon rorel na thar mu mal zok nei theinan dan thar Act 1858 and pass chu East India Company te thu nei na kha British thu nei na pumhlum turin British sarkar thu nei na pumhlum turin an na chokin an thu nei na khan son tani. And number 2, all ruling chiefs of the country were allowed to pass on their kingdoms to their heirs, including the adopted son. Ram chunga lalte thu nei tu te sang lalte ning chu lal zong zong te chu an lal naram chu an fa te an lal naram bik an fa te an falak te hna thlengin an thu nei na ka hlan chhon zel phal sak an ni. And number 3, ratio of Indian soldiers was reduced in army and European soldiers were increased. Indian sipayan titlema chuti rualin British lamte Europe sipai velam vethungka anti tamani. British started the policy of non-interference in social and religious affairs and just constrained only the political sphere. British policy thara chuan khotlang thila le sa kho thila in rol lo kha anti tluwa tin political thila chau in rol don ani. That's all for today. Thank you.